What's going on, everybody? So today's video is going to be inspired by something that I saw from EA about a month ago. It is called their EA Imagination Creation or something, and essentially it is a software where you can use AI to generate video game levels, and you can essentially just use AI to create your own game, it looks like. And obviously, bro, like, this is so cooked. There's no other way to put it. I don't know why they would think this is a good idea. And this is a threat, this is a threat to the video game industry. This is actually very, very scary for video game designers. But I want to break down and kind of discuss why this just doesn't work in the video game industry and why this will just be an instant failure no matter what. I don't care how efficient it is, how powerful it might get. The bottom line is people and most consumers are not going to support things that are made by AI, especially in the video game industry. Like, it's just a straight up fact. I mean, look at the facts recently. Ubisoft is being driven into the ground by consumers. We're just straight up not buying their stuff. Games like Dragon Ball Sparking Zero are beating Call of Duty in pre-orders. Astrobot is super, super successful. Like, there is a shift with consumer demand, and this just isn't going to fly for consumers anymore. And AAA companies that are going to start utilizing this are going to start essentially shooting themselves in the foot. Now, I'll go ahead and drop a link to the showcase that I am referring to. It happened about a month ago at this point, and I want to go ahead and say this before we get into it. A lot of these video game designers that work at EA and like Ubisoft and whatever, like the people who are actually doing the creative work, they hate stuff like this, man. I guarantee you this is not their decision. I promise you that. This is 100% investors and shareholders and, just corporate nonsense going on. And I don't understand how out of touch, like, some of these investors and shareholders really are, because, it's pretty common knowledge. You can see what video games are successful, and it's not hard to, draw conclusions as to why. For example, Astrobot, it's just a fun game. It is literally just a fun game. What is so hard to understand about that, EA or Ubisoft? Like, all of these corporate executives, dude, like, they're trying to implement AI because it's the new fad and it's the new craze going around in the corporate world, and it's like, it just doesn't work. And it's just straight up out of touch stupidity from these investors and these shareholders, man, because I understand you got to make money. This is the thing, though, is it's not going to make money. You're literally just going to drive your company into the ground. Ubisoft is an example of that, and while they haven't implemented like AI generated work, they're still a company that just takes shortcuts and slops together projects, and that's essentially what you're doing when you're using AI. So I think EA should really tread down this path carefully, because, dude, this is a good way to drive your company into the ground. And EA is a very shady developer. However, they're doing pretty decent. For example, like the college football game actually did really well, and I'm not gonna lie, I've had fun with it. EA can every now and then drop a good project, and they're doing okay as a company. But I guarantee you, if they start this wave of AI video game development, man, oh, you're gonna drive that company right into the ground, right into the ground. It's gonna be worse than Ubisoft, man. I'm telling you right now. Now, I know artificial intelligence it's really scary. Like, at the end of the day, it's really scary. You're talking about people's jobs getting replaced. Listen, man, I am not worried, especially on the video game side of things, because this is just flat out something that the consumers just won't support. We just won't support it. And like I said, with recent history, the consumers have proved that we can vote with our wallet and truly cause change. And that example is Ubisoft. Like, that is a recent example. For the first time in history, in that company's history, they're actually listening to their fans, and they're actually trying to do something because their back's against the wall. But it might be too late for them. And I don't see this ever working out. That's why I'm not worried about AI with video game development, because at the end of the day, man, consumers decide, and this is just something that consumers are not going to support whatsoever. And then you get into the fact that we have a whole indie game market nowadays with just some incredible innovative titles. If, let's say, hypothetical here, if every single AAA developer started to use AI for their games, dude, everyone would just turn to indie games, and those games would do so well because that we have the technology. Indie developers have the technology to make some incredible projects. I don't think that hypothetical will ever come true, though, because there are some really good AAA developers. For example, like From Software, Asubi, now Game Science. There's a ton of good AAA developers that make great projects, and I don't think it's anything to worry about. Like I said, just because if EA goes down this path where they start implementing AI development in games, people are just going to start looking at other stuff. Like, we're just going to completely forget about EA. It's not like every single AAA company is going to do that, because that's like the cardinal sin right now in the gaming industry and just in the creative space, is using AI for creative purposes, especially in those bigger industries. Like, it's just a sin, man. And I completely understand why. And from a consumer standpoint, in the short term for this, like I said, I'm not worried. I don't work in the video game industry, so I'm not worried. And I think from a long term standpoint, from like somebody who actually works in the video game industry, I think it's gonna be okay. But it's really tough for the short term, because when you have your biggest companies and your biggest employers in the industry out here trying to implement tactics like this, like, it's tough. It is really, really tough, because that would replace jobs. And the video game industry is something that experiences a ton of layoffs. I do think that it will become more stable over time, but it's just tough right now in this current moment, from somebody who works, as somebody who works in the video game industry's perspective. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't work in the video game industry perspective, but this right here is really scary to see. Just like, I can just easily put myself in their shoes. This is really scary to see. I think long term it will correct itself from an employment standpoint, but short term, it could be really cooked, and more cooked than it already is, man. I mean, video game and just the whole computer science and tech industry, just in general, is so unstable, and it's really unfortunate, man, because you have some of these talented people, and really smart people. Computer science and video game design, that takes a smart and talented person, and it just sucks to see a lot of them out of work like this, because of nonsense like this, and because of stupid investors and stupid shareholders who are just actively working to make the company less money. Like, that's really it. And it's just because they don't understand, and they're so out of touch. Like, that is literally just the bottom line here, and that's what's so unfortunate, man. That it's so unfortunate, and I feel for the developers out there in the industry, because it just sucks. Like, that's just it. And this is just a common theme, especially with media nowadays. I mean, there was the whole writer strike issue, and now AI is a threat to basically everyone who works with anything that has to do with creativity. And it just sucks. And I do think that the consumers are going to put their foot down, and they're just not going to support this, like I said before. I just think it's going to take some long term corrections to make sure that we keep these people in stable jobs. I think the short term impact is going to be rough, and then I think when companies that work with video games, that work with movies and whatever, when they start to implement this more, they're going to see so much backlash and so much lost profit that they're going to just stop implementing it. And it's just unfortunate that that's what it takes. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it'll completely annihilate creative works at all. That's not what I'm saying here. It just sucks for the short term that we're going to have all these market corrections that are going to happen, because it's just completely unnecessary. I mean, you can see it coming from a mile away, man. If I'm an investor or a shareholder, I can tell right off the bat that consumers aren't going to want to buy AI generated content. Like, it's just common sense, man. Like, and I'm so sick of this AI fad. I'm so sick of it. I mean, you have people on social media who just use AI to clip other people's content. That's a whole other thing. They post it and they make like tons of money off of it. That's a whole issue. You're basically just grifting people's content with AI. It's just a whole issue, and I think like I said, I think every issue that we have with it will work itself out. It's just so, dude, it's such a headache to deal with. I'm so sick of AI, man. It's just such a stupid fad and a stupid corporate trend, and it's just driving me nuts. And I'm sure it's driving a lot of you guys nuts also. And I do think AI is very helpful, especially for research purposes. For example, ChatGPT is great. The fact I can, type in whatever I want, it comes up instantly, and I don't have to sift through a bunch of internet garbage and ads in my face online. Like, I think that's really, really good. But there are limits, man, and it's not good sometimes. And I just think that there's going to have to be a lot of market corrections with things like this. But it just drives me nuts. It just drives me so insane, because it's just completely avoidable, in my opinion. And I think it's just common sense, especially if you are actively investing in this industry and you actively have power in decisions that are made. It's just common sense. I don't know what's going on, man. I don't want to make this video to be like super pessimistic, because I don't think that there's a lot to be pessimistic about. We're getting some great video games overall. Like, Silent Hill 2 drops at the time of this recording tomorrow. Astrobot was a fun release. Space Marine 2 is amazing. There's been a lot of good games. and you know the video game industry isn't like doomed or anything. I don't like to see this from companies like EA. You know what I mean? Just because it's just harmful. It's nothing but harmful. At the end of the day, it doesn't even make them money, man. It doesn't even make them money. It only loses the money, and it's just harmful. And it's just not good for video games or just for creative works in general. But yeah, that's gonna be the rant for today, guys. I wanted to talk about that because it's something that I saw, and I was like, that's kind of outrageous. And you know, I didn't see anybody in support of that. Yeah, so if you guys want to check out the showcase, I'll link that down in the description. It's super interesting, and I definitely would check it out just because it's weird to see, to say the least. But yeah, that's gonna do it for today's video. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.